We on? It's 9 o'clock. Let's begin our meeting today. Pennington County Planning Commission, October 14th, 2019. Recommendations of the Planning Commission on items from this agenda will be considered by the Board of Commissioners at their regular meeting on November 5th, 2019 at 10:30 a.m. The Planning Commission utilizes speaker request forms, which are available in the Commission chambers during the meeting. So for the audience, those forms are there in the back. There's also an agenda back there if you'd like to follow along. And if you'd like to speak on any of these items, please bring one of those speaker request forms forward. Roll call, we have 5 here today, a couple missing. And item number 1, approval of the September 23rd, 2019 minutes. For those, if anybody has any comments or corrections on those minutes from the last meeting.
I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. The motion carries. Second item is approval of today's agenda. Do we have a motion?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 And opposed say no. And that brings us to the consent agenda. PJ.
Good morning, Commissioners. PJ Conover, Director of Planning Department. Next item before you is the consent agenda. The following items have been placed on the consent agenda for action to be taken on all items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration. The findings of the Planning Commission are recommendations to the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, who will make the final decision. Item 3, conditional use permit review 1221 for Ken and Corey Tomovic to review a vacation home rental in the suburban residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1221 with 9 conditions. Item 4, conditional use permit review 1322 for Dudley and Isla LaPointe to review a single-wide mobile home to be used as a single-family residence in the suburban residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1322 with 7 conditions. Item 5, conditional use permit review 1737 for Ken and Nancy Denke to review the use of a camper as temporary living quarters not to exceed 180 days in a year on the subject property in the general agriculture district. Staff recommends to continue the review of conditional use permit 1737 to the November 25th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting to allow the applicant time to contact staff and address the outstanding issues with 1 condition. Item 6, conditional use permit review 1744 for Gregory Yates to review the transfer of an existing conditional use permit to allow for an existing residence to continue to be used as a vacation home rental on the subject property in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends approval of the transfer of conditional use permit 1744 with 15 conditions. Item 7, conditional use permit review 1835 for Lori Bell to review a single-wide mobile home to be used as a single-family residence on the subject property in the suburban residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1835 with 6 conditions. Item 8, conditional use permit review 1836 for Shadrack and Holly Howie to review a guest house on the subject property in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1836 with 10 conditions. Item 9, conditional use permit 1925 for Howman Properties LLC. Chadwick Howman is the agent to allow an existing residence to be used as a vacation home residence in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends to continue conditional use permit 1925 with 1 condition. Item 10, minor plan unit development amendment review 1705 for Tanner Colburn to review the existing Sunset Ranch plan unit development to reduce the setback from 25 feet to 12 feet along the western property line. Staff recommends to continue the review of minor plan unit development amendment 1705 to no later than the November 12th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting with 3 conditions. Item 11, major plan unit development amendment review 1806 for Catherine Sopinski. Rob Livingston is the agent to review an existing plan unit development to allow the single-family residence to be used as a vacation home rental. Staff recommends approval of the extension of major plan unit development amendment 1806 with 14 conditions. That'll be the last item.
Okay, these items on the consent agenda can be voted on all at once, but if anyone would like to remove an item from the consent agenda onto the regular agenda, you can. Is there any items that staff would like to remove from the consent?
No, sir.
Any from,
Mr. Chairman, I have two questions. Now, the first is a general question to PJ, and that is, as I read through these, some of them are be reviewed in 6 months, others 1 year, others 3 years.
Yep.
And I wondered what determines the amount of time that passes before they are reviewed.
Sure. During the review of the items, if there's any issues that can have a quick turnaround to fix, we'll do like a 6-month review. Sometimes you'll notice the more short reviews on construction permits. Every conditional use permit after it's initially approved gets a 1-year review because by state statute and our ordinance, an applicant has 2 years to establish the use approved. And if not, the conditional use permit automatically expires. So we do the automatic 1-year review to kind of give a halfway, hey, how's it coming? Are you going to do
Sure.
this kind of thing? And then depending on the success of the applicant to meet the conditions of approval, so we'll usually go 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. We have some
I
up to
see.
10 years now.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then I would like to discuss number 9 in detail, so I would like it removed from the consent agenda.
okay, we'll take number 9 onto the regular agenda. Are there any other items from the commission?
Number 6. I just have a question.
All right, that's number 6 and number 9. Any others? For members of the public in the audience, any of these items on the consent agenda, if you'd like to discuss them in further detail, just step forward and let us know. Okay, seeing none, our regular agenda will now consist of items, the consent agenda will include items 3 through 5, 7, 8, 10, and 11.
Chair, I'd make a motion to approve those.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
I just have a question on number 6, and maybe it's just my lack of memory, or maybe I just remember something differently. I didn't think VHRs were transferable. I could be totally wrong, but for some reason I had it in my mind that VHRs weren't transferable. So I'm probably totally wrong, apparently.
Yes, Cassie Bolstead, they are transferable. By our ordinance, they do have to meet certain requirements to transfer it. They have to notify all the surrounding property owners again that there is a transfer, that there's a new local contact. They have to sign off on all the conditions that already exist on the conditional use permit. They had to show proof that they transferred their state license, that they have a sales tax license, that they do have a new local contact that meets our requirements. So they have to meet all of those requirements, which Mr. Yates has met, but they are transferable.
Okay. It must have been in a conversation that there was somebody who was asking for it not to be, and that's what I remember. So I just couldn't remember.
Yeah.
I don't have any further on this one. I would move approval of it unless there's any further individuals who want to comment on it. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't seeing something wrong.
We have a motion for approval. Any second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor say aye.
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 As opposed say no. Motion carries. Bringing us to item 9 rather.
Yeah, and this may just be my inability to understand exactly what's happening here. It sounded to me as if they did not yet have a conditional use permit, that they were applying for one, but the recommendation says to continue the permit, not continue the review of it, but to continue the conditional use permit. So they have one or they don't, or?
Good morning, Brittany Molitor. They do not have one. This is a new request for a conditional use permit. When we say to continue the review, that means it's an established conditional use permit, when we use that in our request for motion. But this one has not been established yet at all. They did not meet the requirements of the
Yeah, so
state.
wouldn't we continue to review the request?
That's typically not the language we use. Usually we use the language for review when it's an established conditional use permit.
If PJ kind of a director of planning department, if there's an established one, we use the verbiage, continue the extension of. But we can change the request if you'd like.
Mr. Chair.
I'm just, I'm confused,
Gary?
sorry.
It does appear that there's, it says to recommend the continued conditional use permit. Should that not say continue review the conditional use permit?
It says staff
It
is,
just sounds to me as if it's already in place and we're going to continue it.
Well, so the recommend to continue conditional use permit 1925 with one condition, would it be better to say to recommend to continue the hearing of conditional use permit 1925 with one hearing, with one condition?
Well, I'm just, like I say, if it's not in place, then it shouldn't be continued. It should be reviewed, understood, or gotten answers, or,
Well, it was advertised in the public, for
Sure.
the papers and the hearing letters that went out for today's meeting. So
The
we're
hearing
letting everybody know, and the staff report kind of explains what's going on,
I
to
see.
let everybody know when that it's gonna go.
Okay, well,
But we can work on coming up with some different verbiage to make it a little clearer, because if
Well,
one
maybe.
person's concerned, more
yeah,
are.
for the future.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So is it accurate to describe, the process here is that they applied for a conditional use permit and the application, you're going to continue the application? I mean, are we in the application stage now?
well, they had submitted their application. There were some requirements that are under 319 that they did not meet.
Right.
They did not send out their letters as required in 319, and it was already advertised, so that's why it has to be on your guys' agenda.
Yeah.
So if there was anybody here to speak to this item, that they had the opportunity to do so. So that's why it is on the agenda, even though they didn't meet some of the requirements of 319.
Yes, right.
So if we did a combination of kind of what two commissioners were talking about, we could do to recommend the continued hearing of the application for conditional use permit 1925 with one condition.
Right.
That'd be a combination of the
Yeah.
two. That makes it clearer.
Yeah, because if I were to approve this, it sounds to me as if I am approving the existence of the conditional use permit.
Sure. No, we can make that change, and we'll make changes in the future for that too. We don't have many of these.
You don't what?
We don't have many of this
Oh,
situation.
okay, thank you.
Any further comments? Okay, then is there a motion on this item?
I'll move approval.
We have a motion. Second, anyone?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no.
No,
Just one no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, we're on to item 12.
Good morning. Item 12 is minor plat MPL 1925 for Julie Benson Wilbur to create lots 1 and 2 of Thorstenson Benson Ranch subdivision. The applicant, Julie Benson Wilbur, has applied to create these 2 lots. As the property exists today, it consists of 3 developmental lots with 1 tax parcel. It is zoned general agriculture district and consists of 79.37 acres. The access of this property is off of Nemo Road. The special flood hazard area on this property has not been studied. The subject contains 3 developmental lots which have always been bought and sold together as 1 land unit. The creation of these 2 new lots, and the remaining balance will nullify the 3 developmental lot lines. The proposed lots For this property is Lot 1 of Thorstenson Benson Ranch subdivision. It will consist of 4.601 acres. A rezone or a lot size variance will be required for this lot. Lot 2 of Thorstenson Benson Ranch subdivision will consist of 40 acres, and it will meet the minimum lot size requirement for a general agriculture district. The remaining balance will be Lot A of the southeast quarter, which will consist of 34.769 acres, and it will be a legal non-conforming lot size. This was routed through the interdepartmental review. There was only one item of concern that came up. There was percolation and profile hole information done for proposed lot 1, but not for lot 2. The layout plan for this request was heard by the Board of Commissioners on April 16th, 2019, and was approved with 8 conditions. In addition, on September 20th, 2019, the Board of Commissioners did approve the second reading for a rezone and comprehensive plan amendment to rezone Lot 1 from General Agriculture District to Low Density Residential District, and to amend the comprehensive plan from Plan Unit Development Sensitive to Low Density Residential District. So staff is recommending approval of this minor plat with 8 conditions.
Okay, any questions or comments from the commission? Would anyone in the audience like to comment or have any questions on this item? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
Opposed, say no. Seeing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Taking us to item 13.
Thank you, Commissioner. Item 13 is minor plat MPL 1928, which is a request to create lots 8A and 8B of Collins Addition. The applicants are Brad and Colleen Kurtz. Surveying agent is DC Scott Surveyors, and the applicant is in the audience today if you have any questions. Subject property is currently 10.5 acres. Let me get over here. On June 4th of this year, the Board of Commissioners approved layout plat for this creation with 9 conditions. And on August 6th of this year, the Board of Commissioners also approved the second reading of the rezone 1908 to change the current zoning from limited agriculture district to low density residential district to bring it in line with the route of the platting request. And then also they approved the comprehensive plan amendment, which is number 1908, to change the future land use from plan unit development sensitive to low density residential district. The current lot as it is today is vacant of any structures. Access comes off of 385. There's no special flood hazard area on the property. The applicant is looking to create Lot 8A at 3.18 acres and Lot 8B at 7.32 acres. Both would meet the minimum requirement for low density residential district, and access will remain off of 385. Lot 8A will take access off a 40-foot wide shared access easement off of 385. This was routed through the interdepartmental review. No items of note came back. And for the purposes of a minor plat, staff finds no significant issues with the applicant's requests and recommends approval of minor plat 1928 with 6 conditions.
Okay, is there any comments or questions from the commission? Seeing none, or anybody from the audience who'd like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, staff is recommending approval. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
We have motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Takes us to item 14.
Item 14 is minor plat 1930, which is a request to create lots 1 and 2 of Rand Lode subdivision. The applicant is Olson Rental Properties LLC. Aaron Olson is the agent, and Aaron Olson is the landowner, and the agent is Fisk Land Surveying. There are no representatives in the office in the audience today. We did get a call from Janelle from Fisk. She was unable to make it today. Let me get into here for you. On August 20th, 2019, the Board of Commissioners approved layout plat 1924 with 6 conditions. Shortly, or at that same meeting, the Board of Commissioners also approved subdivision regulation variance 1907 to waive road design standards for a limited agriculture district for turnarounds and the length of a dead-end road, and the maximum number of lots and access easement shall serve in the limited agriculture district. Following that, on September 3rd, the Board of Commissioners approved the second reading of Rezone 1911 to change the land use from current zoning from general agriculture district to limited agriculture district to come in line with the request for the future plats, and also approved comprehensive plan amendment 1911 to change the future land use from plan unit development sensitive to limited agriculture district. Properties today currently are vacant of any structures and combined are 20.19 acres. Proposed lots 1 and 2. Proposed lot 1 and 2 are going to be rezoned to limited agriculture district and be 10.09 acres each. Access will be off of Dakota's Road via a 40-foot wide private access and utility easement. This was routed through the interdepartmental review. Nothing significant came back, but a couple items of note. First was from the fire administrator, that if the length of the driveway access exceeds 75 feet, or physical obstruction prevents the number from being visible from the road on which the address is taken, then the house number shall be posted adjacent to the area in which the driveway access way intersects the road. This is consistent with County Ordinance number 20 for posting of addresses. Also, the Register of Deeds noticed a slight error in the noting of the book on the plat. Instead of book 103, it should be book 106, and the agent is already aware of that. And then also Black Hills Energy commented that they would like to clarify that the minor drainage utility easement on the interior lot lines noted on the plat typically is listed at 8 feet, and the agent and the owner are aware of that as well. For the purposes of a minor plat, staff finds no significant issues moving forward with this applicant's request, and staff would recommend approval of minor plat 1930 with 5 conditions.
Does anyone on the commission have questions or comments on this item?
I'm sorry, it looks
Sandra?
like there's 7 conditions.
Oh, so did I say 5? Yes, 7, thank you.
Well, it says 5,
Yep,
but
I
7
just
are
read that.
listed.
Yep, 7, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm confusing myself, I think.
All right, we have a minor update there on the number. Any further questions or discussion? Would anyone from the audience like to comment on this item? Okay. Seeing none, staff is recommending approval of minor plat 1930. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 15.
Good morning, Cassie Bosted. Item 15 is minor plat 1931. This is a request to create lot 10, block 3 of the ranch at Black Gap. The applicant is Double L Properties. The surveyor is Long Branch Civil Engineering. As this property exists today, it's zoned planned unit development within the ranch at Black Gap planned unit development. It's 25.033 acres. Access is off of Black Gap Road, which is within the branch at Black Gap Road District. It's currently vacant and there is no special flood hazard on the area. The section line that you see that runs through the center of that property was relocated to Highway 79 in 1998. What they are proposing to do is create lot 10 of block 3 of the ranch at Black Gap. It will be exactly the same size. We'll also take access off of Black Gap Road. This was routed through the interdepartmental review process and nothing of significant concern came back. They did obtain approval of a layout plat 1911 with 10 conditions in June of 2019. And the Board of Commissioners also did approve a subdivision regulations variance to waive improvements to Black Gap Road and submittal of percolation tests and soil profile hole information. The majority of this property is actually located within the 3-mile platting jurisdiction of the city of Rapid City. So they will have to have certificates and signatures from both the county and the city on this plat. They are currently working with the city. They have received an approval of a preliminary subdivision plan through the city. And once this is approved, they'll be able to finish that planning process with the city and get this filed. The purpose of the plat is to create one platted lot and eliminate an existing non-transferable balance. As it exists right now, it's an unplatted lot and therefore can't be transferred to a different company. So they're not changing anything about this lot. They're just making it a platted lot so that they can transfer ownership. So staff is recommending approval of minor plat 1931 with 6 conditions.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Chair.
Gary?
So Cassie, they're not requesting another access off 79 to it?
No, nope.
Okay.
And actually DOT has already told them that they will not grant access off of Highway 79. They will have to take access from the roads within the subdivision.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Questions? Okay, would anyone from the audience like to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, our staff's recommendation is for approval of minor plat 1931. Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Taking us to item 16.
Good morning, Christina Proetti here, Planner 1. Item 16 is layout plat. That should say layout plat / LP, not PL. Sorry, my mistake. Layout plat 1929 for Jeremiah and Trista Velchek. Right now, the existing lots are currently zoned as a planned unit development. With a combined total, each lot is 2.06 acres. Each lot itself is 1.03. Currently, lot 6, which is the northeastern lot, lies vacant, and lot 7 contains one single-family residence with an attached garage. The proposed lot has an existing approach off of Nightwind Court, and there is no special flood hazard on the subject property. The applicant has applied for layout plat 1929 to consolidate the two existing lots into one lot and to create lot 6R of the Ranch at Black Gap subdivision. And this is to yield a larger building envelope. Right now, there are no other items of concern for this property, and staff is recommending approval with 6 conditions.
Would anyone from the commission have questions or comments on this item? Anyone from the audience? Comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, our staff's recommendation is for approval of layout plat 1929. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Motion carries. Taking us to item 17.
Cassie Bolstead again. Item 17 is Rezone 1913 and Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1913. This is a request to rezone 3.02 acres from planned unit development to low-density residential district and to amend the Pennington County Comprehensive Plan to change the future land use from planned unit development sensitive to low-density residential. The applicant is Leslie McGordy. She is in the audience today if you do have any questions for her. As this property exists today, it is zoned as a planned unit development from 2008. Access to this property is off of Metz Road via a 16-foot wide platted access easement. It currently contains a single wide mobile home and 2 outbuildings and an on-site wastewater treatment system. This property is also completely enclosed with special flood hazard area. There is a 100-year floodplain that covers the entirety of this property. So the planned unit development that currently exists on this property today was done in 2008, and it was a planned unit development to allow 3 existing mobile homes, a home occupation, and outbuildings and it was approved with 16 conditions. That planned unit development was reviewed and approved again in 2009, 2011, 2013, and most recently in 2017, it was approved with 9 conditions. The current zoning within a half mile of this property, there's suburban residential, low density residential, planned unit development, limited agriculture, general agriculture. And then future land use within a half mile is much the same: suburban residential, low density residential, planned unit development, PUD sensitive, and public land. This request was routed through the interdepartmental review process. Nothing of significant concern came back. The applicant purchased this property in 2017, and since that time has taken 2 of the mobile homes off the property. There currently only exists 1 remaining mobile home on this property that she is living in. So since she has removed 2 of the mobile homes, the existing plan unit development is no longer really applicable, and the applicant in her rezone application stated that the reason for the rezone is that the existing plan unit development is too restrictive. This request also does remove a 1-lot plan unit development from our zoning, which is in staff's mind beneficial. It's not something that's needed anymore. And also in our comprehensive plan moving forward, plan unit developments are actually anticipated to not exist anymore. So this is helpful from the county standpoint, and the applicant's request does appear to be in harmony with the surrounding zoning and land uses in the area. So staff is recommending approval of rezone 1913 and comprehensive plan amendment 1913.
Okay, we have 2 requests. Does that require 2 motions?
No, you can do them in one
Do them
motion.
in one, okay. Does anyone from the commission have questions or comments on this item? No? From the audience, does anyone like to, questions or comments? Seeing none. Our recommendation is, from staff, is for approval of rezone 1913 and comprehensive plan amendment 1913. Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, if I may, because Leslie's in the audience. Since Leslie has bought this property, she's been working with staff to clean this property up and has done an incredible job. And even the neighbors have complimented on the work that she's done to clean this property. And I don't mean just physically clean, but it's also less of a headache or no headache now for the sheriff's office. So Leslie's done a great job.
Super.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item 18.
Cody Stack, Environmental Planner. The following items have been placed on the construction permit agenda to be heard for public comment and will not be voted on by the Planning Commission. Any Planning Commissioner, staff member, or audience member may comment on any of the items. Comments received will be considered by the Planning Director, who will make the final decision on the construction permit. Item 18 is construction permit review 1908. It's to review the repair of an existing dam. This was reviewed at the September 23rd Planning Commission meeting. The applicant hadn't got some, it wasn't, sorry. Some of the conditions weren't being implemented. He was supposed to get some engineer to do a report on the spillway, increasing the size of the spillway to make sure that it didn't affect the drainage downstream, and to sign a statement of understanding. The agent for the landowner has been working with the office to get the engineered plans or the document, and he also has a copy of the the statement of understanding to get the applicant to sign. So they are working with our office. So staff is recommending, in the recommendation it says October 28th, but the condition is actually November 12th. So that would be a correction. So it's actually November 12th that they would have time to get us what is needed to meet those conditions.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the commission? Cody, I was wondering, do you have photos of this site?
I do not. There, it's actually at the very end of a road that they block off. When I went out to do a site visit the other day, they had it blocked, so I couldn't get past to take a picture of it. It has been completed. I do want to get out there and view it though, because the staff did receive a comment when I was out doing a inspection on a different property that apparently what he had done has washed out. So that'll be something. They also are applying for another construction permit for that property, and that'll be on the October 28th meeting too. So that is included in there. That'll be done on the site visit as well.
And Mr. Chairman, isn't it my understanding that we don't vote on these items?
Nope.
I mean,
That's right.
yeah.
Just
okay,
comments.
Yeah.
I was interested in knowing for something like this, construction permits required whenever like a stock dam or any of this, anything similar is worked on or?
Well, sorry, I don't want to steal your thunder here.
Like, are you questioning like the work that was?
Well, is this just like any stock dam or is this different?
No, it's from my understanding and from aerials, it's just like any other stock dam. What happened is a couple years ago it washed out, and this construction permit was actually done after the fact. All the work was done previously. It was something that he was in violation of that he needed to fix. In that, so in this picture where PJ's gonna circle, the south side, like the southeast side of that, that's where the work was done. On it, he built it up and he actually enlarged the spillway. And enlarging the spillway, you can have more water volume going down that, so it can affect the drainage. So that's why staff requested that engineered document to make sure that if that spillway ever gets used with like the rain that we had this year, that whatever happens downstream, since it's a floodway and it goes onto somebody else's property, that their property's not affected by that work in a negative way.
So is there a like a size, like an acreage or something, or is it because it's just adjacent to another property, or are any kind of dams requiring construction permits?
No, the construction permit's just because the dirt work that he did went over 10,000 square feet. If he was repairing the dam and it was under 10,000 square feet, he wouldn't have required a construction permit. I don't know about state permits. Anytime you deal with state water of the state, it kind of usually requires a permit. But in this case, it's just because he went over our required 10,000 square
Oh,
feet.
it's a typical 10,000 square
Yep.
feet. Okay, I see. Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Would anyone from the audience like to speak on this item? Okay. Seeing none, that takes us to the next item, 19.
Item 19 is construction permit review 1909. It's to review the improvement of a drainage around Rapid Valley Elementary School. The applicant is Wrangle Construction. This was originally approved back in July. They had originally started the work before an approved construction permit. They did come in and pay the fine for that. The work, staff drove by there multiple times throughout the summer. The work is completed. There's no construction going on there now, but staff could not verify. In the ordinance, it states that vegetation has to be 75% of what it was before previously, and staff cannot verify that 75% has been reached yet. Otherwise, the work is done. There's no construction going on at the property. But with that not being able to verify, staff recommends that the planning director continue the review of construction permit 1909 with 13 conditions. There was a condition added because they were supposed to do weekly inspection reports. Staff has not received those, so that's why it was continued instead of the extension approved. They have until October 31st to get us all those inspection reports for the summer. Staff will be sending them a letter telling them what they need to do to comply to that. So other than that, part of the conditions is that it be reviewed at the November 12th meeting as well to verify that those inspection reports are given to us.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from the commission? Yes?
So,
Kathy?
Cody, what is the practice when it's outside of the growing season? Like, for example, now if they planted free vegetation, it's nothing's going to grow, and so what's the practice?
So the practice is that you can plant your seed in the fall, and hopefully it'll grow in the springtime when the ground thaws out and all the moisture's there. If it's not fully vegetated by the time that winter hits, they would just have to stabilize the site for the wintertime with just your regular BMPs, the best management practices.
Right.
For them, they really didn't have a whole lot of actual area where vegetation was needed. It was really only in the front, because in the back where they actually did a lot of the work, it was concrete and gravel. In fact, a lot of their erosion control was just actually outside, protecting the inlets because it was so far away from their road and their property. which, like I said, I drove by there a lot because I have a lot of construction permits in the valley and stuff. I didn't see any sign throughout the summer with all the rain that we had of any sediment leaving that site. So,
I see, okay.
but they would just have to stabilize it for the for the winter, like any other thing. If you don't work on it for more, if it lays dormant for more than 21 days, they have to stabilize the site.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
Anything further? Okay. That is the end of the construction permit agenda. Item 20, County Board Report.
Hello, Commissioners. Item 20, County Board Report. The Board of Commissioners concurred with the Planning Commission's recommendation from September 23rd, 2019 Planning Commission meeting.
Okay. Any comments? All right. Is that it?
Item 21.
Item 21. Items from the public? I see no public. So item 22, items from the staff.
Sure. We have two items today. The first is the building permit report, which you should have in front of you. Consistent with what's been going on and the trend that we've been seeing this year is even though overall building permit totals are down by 21%, our single-family residents and our residential additions are up 21% and actually down -7% for the additions, but overall valuations are increasing. So there's less of the accessory structures being built and more of the primary structures being created and added upon at a higher valuation. And overall, the valuation is up 10% over this time last year, roughly about $2.5 million. And so far, the county has brought in almost 27, or the planning department has brought in building permits totaling almost $27 million of taxable structures.
Any comments from the commission? Okay, item 23, items from, or sorry, you have another item, yes.
Yeah, there was
second
one more item. Just to follow up on Commissioner Johnson's request to get the building permits out on the radio. I assigned that task to Christina, and she was working with KOTA, and she has a phone call in to Marnie Cook, who is the one who actually announces those, and it sounds like they are in favor of adding county information to the city information they put out once a month.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Nothing further.
Maybe I missed that conversation, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, but what is that going to do? What are we going to put out on that?
Sure. So right now what happens is, from the ones I've heard, Marnie Cook will announce just building permits for the city. And what we're going to send to her is the same information that the commissioners receive, and then she can pull from that whatever she wants to announce. Usually it's just straight numbers. How many came in that month, what the valuations were, how many they have that year. Ours are always less than the city because we don't permit nearly as much as they do.
And this is a radio station?
Yeah, usually on 1380 AM is where I hear it, I believe, KOTA. Yeah.
Okay.
She just does the top of the hour and bottom of the hour announcements and news.
Interesting. Thank you.
Okay, item 23, any items from the membership? Nope, seeing none. That brings us to 24, adjournment.
Move approval?
Motion?
Move approval. I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Meeting's adjourned.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.